Good morning. Thank you for being with me today. My name is Dennis Kohl. I'm the pastor at Lutheran Church of the Good Shepherd in Kingston. And I'd like to take a few minutes just to share something of my life with you this morning. I've enjoyed being a parish pastor. I've been doing this for 46 years now. And one of the reasons why I really like the work most of the time is because you never know what's going to happen next. Some days the day is filled with sadness, some days it's filled with rejoicing. This is life. This is the way we live. This past week, actually the last Monday and Tuesday this week, I had 2 phone calls, one of which was troubling for me, another which was a joyful reminder of how good life is because of how good God is. I had a call from someone who recently had a death in the family. He was all alone at this point, and when his dad died, basically his family withered away. He was certain that God has forgotten about him, that God had moved away from him, that there was really very little hope for him. And he called me just to find out who God is and what God does. It was a hard conversation. I always have a hard time trying to make people see their feelings in a different way. I suspect many of us do. But I thought of something that I had read this past week. It was a letter from a pastor in the 1700s to one of his parishioners who was certain that her sins, that her life was not pleasing to God. He gave her good advice, and the reason why I think it was good advice is because it really spoke to me also. Basically what he said to her was what I tried to say to my friend who called. When times like these come, when there's times that we're certain that God has forgotten about us or that we're all alone in the world, those are the times that we need to focus on what God has done for us more than what we find our situation to be. It's not easy. But that's one of the reasons why we have gatherings for worship when we're able to on Sundays, to be reminded of the fact that God is good, that God has blessed us, that God has done more for us than we ever could for ourselves. I don't know if it helped him. I suspect I'll be hearing from him again, and that's okay, because an important part of what ministry is about is walking with somebody through difficult times. I had another call yesterday, actually, from an old friend of mine. He's a rabbi, and he had the opportunity to speak up in Massachusetts on Yom HaShoah Day, which is the day of remembering the Holocaust. And he used a story that he and I shared together, an event that we shared together, to introduce his little speech. Maybe 20-some years ago, one of the kids from the church where I was serving at the time did something that was pretty awful. He went and he painted a swastika on the temple where this rabbi was serving. That kind of thing can really divide communities, increase anger, and make people believe that somehow it is only the bad that matters. But I went to see the rabbi, who was not my friend at that time, just to say to him, I'm sorry this happened. You know, kids from our church should not be doing things like that. And of course, he knew that. But he also saw this as an opportunity to begin to do something different. And so he and I talked, and he talked with the kids that did the painting, and he made sure that they did things that would help them to understand better what the Holocaust was. Spend time at the Holocaust Museum. Spend time speaking with people who've had families who died in the Holocaust. He He is indeed a good rabbi. He was a good teacher. But something more came out of that, because out of that friendship, out of that reaching out to try to help one another and to trust one another, came a relationship that has continued even to this day. When his temple needed a place to worship, the congregation I served at the time provided that for them. When they needed a place to have learning opportunities, the congregation I served provided them that space. In fact, the relationship that he and I had became very trustful. So much so that not only did I get to celebrate Seder at Passover with him and with his family, but he also had the honor of preaching on Yom Kippur, preaching on the text from Genesis where God asks, "Where are you?" to Adam and Eve. Yom Kippur is a day of asking that question. Where are you? Where's your life? What matters? Who are you? I was really honored. And most people said they liked my sermon because, as the rabbi put it, it was shorter than his would have been. We continue our friendship even though he's moved away. We've trusted one another. We've shared strengths. We've shared sorrows. We walked with each other through some difficult times for the communities we served and for the ministries that both he and I were called to. But something came of that was important. That out of what was really a lousy, a terrible, a sinful situation, new life sprung forth. I know that when I go through those times where I wonder, okay, what the heck is going on now? Or even, why is God doing this? I realize that what God is doing is really sowing seeds, providing fertile ground for new life to come. Because I know this to be true. God is not limited by our understanding of possibilities. In fact, God is able to create new life out of anything. For us who are Christians, that's what the cross is about. Good Friday does lead to Easter morning. There's always new life possible. I bring these two examples today because I think it's important for us to learn or to remember or to be reminded or to be chided to do what that pastor did in the 1700s to his parishioner. Stop and look at things in a bigger picture. When we do, we discover, first of all, we are not alone, that God has not forgotten us, and then we marvel at what our God is able to do, bringing new life out of what seems to be places of death and struggle. This is who God is. My friend, the rabbi, agreed. That's why he told that story. It's true for people who are from a Jewish tradition or from Christian tradition. We do share the same God, the God of new life, the God who brings hope, the God whose final word to us will not be death, but it will be life. Genuine, authentic, abundant life. Thank you for joining me.